the United Methodist Church that is emerging, the United Methodist Church of the future, what are you looking for in church leadership? What are you looking for in current leaders right now to help us get to where you believe God is calling us?
I'm looking for leaders that have those humble spirits that can reflect on the things that we have been doing as a church, maybe even before they were a leader, and they can look at these things and they can have the courage and the humbleness to recognize and say, hey, maybe those things that we have always done, maybe they're not all right, and maybe we've approached these things wrong. And from that moment forward, they can have this spirit of healing and growth for our church. And I'm also looking in leaders who see the value in young people and women and minorities in ministry, because I see sometimes our leaders, they can look at these kind of people and they can look at them like, hey, they're going to vote how I want them to, or they're not going to vote how I want them to. And that's going to determine how they value them and how they support them. And in the midst of this, I believe that our leadership has not seen and supported the gifts and graces for ministry that young people and women and minorities have. And no matter what side of the fence you're on in disagreements, if your choice to support these people in ministry is contingent on how they would vote, then you have totally missed the point in supporting them in ministry and seeing the gifts and the graces that they have to offer. But above all of these things, I want to see leaders who have not lost focus on Jesus, who's not lost focus on that main thing. I want to be able to look at church leadership and not see their political preference or an agenda, but I want to see a leader who is following Jesus and who is focused on making disciples of Jesus for the transformation of the world.
And Adam, when you think about the leadership that will emerge in the church and that needs to emerge in a new generation of leaders, what are you looking forward to in a leader?
Well, first of all, I feel really heartened, and I can't imagine anybody not feeling that way after listening to Elizabeth today. So when I think about leaders that are emerging, I think we've got an amazing generation of leaders coming up, and we don't have enough of them. And one of the things that I challenge pastors and church leaders to do constantly is, are you casting a vision for young people saying yes to God's call to full-time Christian ministry? And we need lay people who are out doing ministry in the world, but we also have got to find amazing young people and at least ask. I mean, I became a pastor because people in my church were saying, have you thought about being a pastor? I think you have the gifts for being a pastor, when I didn't think that was something I wanted to be or do. And so I think we've got to help young people listen for God's call. Every conversation I have with teenagers or even children, we have our third grade Bibles. We give away Bibles to our third graders like almost every Methodist church does. And every year I ask them, I'm giving you these Bibles. I think at least 10% of you who are getting your third grade Bibles, God has a calling to be a pastor someday. We start that at 8, and when they're 8 years old, asking, have you thought about the fact that God might want you to tell other people about Jesus as your full-time job? And I love this when kids come up to me. I had a young girl come up to me the other day. She was probably 9 or 10 years old, and she said, Pastor Adam, I want to be a pastor when I grow up. And so constantly fanning the flames of that idea of, you could devote yourself to the kind of work that's so deeply satisfying. It's hard, but so deeply satisfying in helping other people know Jesus and to grow in their faith, and then inspiring them to go live out their faith in the world in a way that changes the world. I think about what Elizabeth said. I love the thing she talked about, humility and moral courage, or just courage, but certainly moral courage, and inclusiveness, a love of people, a love of Jesus. I mean, I think those are all attributes of leaders. People skills are really important. We got to have good people skills. It's interesting, most pastors people are surprised by this, are introverts. So people think pastors are all extroverts, but a majority of pastors are introverts because they're drawn to the interior spiritual life. And that's a kind of introverted way of being. So as pastors, we have to, and leaders, we have to go out of our way to come out of our introvertedness to connect with people first. We've got to be, thinking people, God first, but then, it's connecting with people. I'm excited about the future of the United Methodist Church. And Elizabeth, I was in Alabama, of course, in your annual conference, and also in Alabama, West Florida. And when I listen to you talk, I think this is why people should want to stay United Methodist. You've just articulated so well, what does it mean to be United Methodist, and what kind of church do we hope to be? And that's going to be a church of humility and grace, and a church that loves Jesus and is passionately calling people to be followers of Jesus, and looks around to see all people and sees in them both our brothers and sisters and children of God, but also unique gifts and gifting. And looking at ways to include them as opposed to ways to exclude them. And in the early church, people were really good in the first century Judaism, the religious leaders had forgotten that, and they had been excluding people. They call them Am Haaretz. That's the Hebrew for people of the land. And it was like uncouth people, and people weren't religious in the way that I think they should be religious. And they tended to look down on them. And the word Pharisee means to, or we think it comes from a Hebrew word that means to separate yourself from the uncouth people or these sinful people. And Jesus is constantly going after the sinful people. He's associating with sinners and tax collectors. He's breaking bread with people. He's looking at people who are broken. He's searching the crowd to see. I love when he travels across the Sea of Galilee to find the man among the tombs, and there, who everybody else had rejected, and there he sets him free. And so this idea that we're looking to see, I mean, there's enough churches in America who are going to reach religious people. There's plenty of churches in America to reach people who are, followers of Jesus already. But my hope is United Methodists are looking out after the people who are broken or hurting or somehow were made to feel like they didn't fit in the church or marginalized. And we're going out of our way to love those people. And people respond to love, more than they respond to, your great presentation of the gospel. They respond first to that you love them and showed them the gospel. And I think we have a new generation. One of the things that excites me about to your question, Kenita, about young adults, is that caring for people who are marginalized or broken or hurting is a huge value for many young adults today. And it's a sort of defining value of a generation. And to me, that is a very, whether they're Christians yet or not, it's a very Christian value and a very gospel value.
And one of the values that I discern in young people today is care for the environment. Which kind of traces back to our original question around God and science, God and understanding of nature. But Elizabeth, would you say something about that? Is that something that's on your heart? I've heard it a lot recently around concern for the creation upon which we depend.
Absolutely. I mean, I definitely believe that it's very Christian, very Christ-like value to be good stewards of the creation that God has left us with. And I hope that we can learn more in science about how we can do that better. And I think we should do that because God has left us to be those good stewards of his environment, of his creation. And when we do that, we honor God, but we're also honoring people and the people that are around us and the people that are going to come for generations to come.
Thank you. And thank you both. Do either of you have anything else that you would like to share with us?
I'll just say we're in the midst of a period of discernment, and there will be some congregations, wonderful congregations of wonderful people who are deciding to leave the United Methodist Church for different reasons. And that saddens me a lot. But we're going to bless them to go and to do great ministry. What I'm excited about is I believe that the United Methodist Church and our approach to the gospel is one that's desperately needed in the 21st century. And I think that approach that combines the head and the heart and the hands, I think that approach that loves scripture and brings a critical thinking skills to how we read and apply it. The church that's concerned with both the evangelical and social gospel, I think that church, the church that's able to speak faith to non-religious and nominally religious people. I mean, Wesley was out in the talking to the miners and the folks in the working in the fields, reclaiming that, small groups and intentional discipleship. We're going to see some churches leave, and then I'm pretty excited about what the future looks like beyond that. And my hope is that a lot of United Methodist churches and pastors will say, really, I love this church. This is the church that has nurtured me. This is the church that has fed me, and I want to be a part of its future. And I'm just excited about what the future holds for the United Methodist Church.
Elizabeth, share with us what the future holds or how you see this.
I definitely agree with Adam. I don't know how you could listen to this conversation and not hear the fruits and the benefits and the gifts that the United Methodist Church has to offer the world. And it's my desire that the North Alabama Conference stays in the United Methodist Church. But as someone that grew up in Alabama, West Florida, I also hope that conference stays in the United Methodist Church and every other conference, because I believe in the value of the United Methodist Church. And I appreciate Adam and his ministry, and they took time to come and to speak to us down here. And I hope that people can see the gifts that this church has to offer.
Well, thank you both. This has been wonderful. I have enjoyed this conversation. It's been an inspiring conversation. And And it's been an interesting conversation, Adam, hearing your thoughts over decades of ministry in the same context as we listen to Elizabeth, who is at the beginning of her journey, and the way that such a continuation of the call and of God's blessing through the United Methodist Church. So I appreciate you both. I appreciate the ministry that you have done and continue to do and will do on behalf of this church. Thank you so much.
Benita, thank you for what you're doing and the role of the Connectional Table and trying to bring people to the table to be in conversation and to help the church have a future. I just so appreciate it. It's hard work. And I'm really grateful for the work that you're doing. So thank you for being one of our key leaders in our denomination and for bringing Elizabeth and I together. This has been a lot of fun listening to Elizabeth today. I feel, more energized and excited than I have in quite a while just listening to her talk. So thank you.